All right, good morning, Shore students and staff. Today we are going to watch a short video about progress monitoring and why we are doing this every week in advisory. The hope of you monitoring your progress in ALEKS, Achieve 3000, and your grades in your classes is that you will be more aware of what is going on in your classes and notice the trends that show your progress throughout the school year. We want to see positive growth in each and every student as the school year progresses. Positive growth should show in the graph by seeing a positive upward line from left to right. If you are someone that performs at a high level every week, you may not see that line. It may appear more as a flat line, which is also fine if you traditionally perform at a very high level in ALEKS, Achieve, and in your grades. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at ALEKS first. And first of all, many of you may wonder, what are we doing with ALEKS and why we're doing ALEKS? Well, ALEKS obviously is a math program, and the whole idea behind ALEKS is that we are focusing on trying to do better in what we're supposed to learn for math in the various grade levels. So we want students to have gaps filled if they have come to us with gaps in their learning. ALEKS can help fill some of those gaps, and we want it also aligned with what's going on in your grade level math class, so we can make progress in your grade level math class. And if you are somebody that is at a higher level, we want to push you to do even better, so we can take care of those students at the upper level of the spectrum as far as their grades are concerned, and show growth in all of those areas. Ultimately, in all of these areas, the state measures how the school is doing and how our students are doing, and we need to show growth and improvement across the board for every student. All right, students, the first thing we're going to look at today is ALEKS, and what I have up on the screen right now is a particular student's ALEKS report for time and topic report. So when you log in as a student, you can pull up your time and topic report, and what I would like you to do is you can just hover over the Monday, October 3rd, and that would tell you how much time and how many topics were learned for that particular student for that day. And you can do that for every day that you're logged into ALEKS. So on this day, this student on the 3rd of October has spent 41 minutes and 25 seconds in ALEKS and has 2 topics learned. All right, which means that as of right now, the student has not reached the building benchmark. And remember, we're looking for 60 minutes per week for each student and a minimum of 7 topics learned each week. So this student hasn't reached that yet, but they're certainly on track to get the 60 minutes and then the 7 topics. So with that information, I'm going to go back into the spreadsheet, and I'm going to put in the 41 topics, or 41 minutes, and then the 2 topics learned. And let's say, certainly that student didn't reach the benchmarks for that week, but let's say next week that student gets 120 minutes and masters 35 topics. You're going to want to notice that the trend line for the positive growth is the line moving from the lower left to the upper right for both the time in minutes and then the topics completed. And that's what we want to see. We want to see growth. Again, there may be some challenges to that if you're somebody that is doing an exceptional job every week, and that's many of you. You may be flatlined, which is okay too. But as long as you're showing positive growth and you're working, above the benchmarks that we've set for the building. Okay, students, now we're going to take a look at Achieve 3000, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to log in, and you're going to bring up your Achieve 3000, and you are going to do a search for the article that you did the week before. So once you do that, you're going to click on that article. Okay, we're taking the activity detail report for this particular student, and let's say it's the date that it was taken was September 14th, and we're going to look down here for butterflies need milkweed, and we're going to look at the first try score, and you'll see down here it's 63%. So I'm going to take that number, it's 63, and I'm going to pop it back into my spreadsheet of my progress monitoring, and I'll put my 63 in. Let's say the week after I put 100% in, my first try activity for that following week, and let's say this week I get an 87%. So I put 87 in. Notice I did not put percentage signs in for any of those. Do not do that. I learned the hard way that's not the way to do things. So steep learning curve for Mr. Baker, do not put percentages in. And notice you want to see an upward trend here. The student, started off at 63. The week of September 28th did real well, got 100% on their first try activity, and dipped a little bit on this week's. So ended up dipping a little bit. Obviously, you want to see an upward trend like this. If you dip a little bit, that's okay too. But as more data points are added here, this is going to hopefully be going up and up and up, and your Lexiles are going to grow. So that's the whole idea behind the Achieve 3000. All right, and this is a reminder that this progress monitoring is just the work that you're doing in advisory on Wednesdays with the Achieve 3000. Certainly, as your teachers in their classes are giving you additional Achieve articles, you may be experiencing more growth thanks to that work, and you should. The more reading that you do and the more reading you do at upper levels, the greater the chance and likelihood that your Lexile scores are going to grow. So that's what we want to see in Achieve 3000, and we're going to get ready to look at grades here in a minute. Okay, now we're going to look at grades, and the best way to do grades is you're going to log into your Infinite Campus, and you're going to go to the Grades tab. And while you may not see anything in the blanks under each quarter at this point, the way for you to identify how you're doing in each of the classes is to look at this little paper that's underneath each of the course names. So for example, I'm going to bring up English Language Arts, and I bring this students' grades up for first quarter, and notice that they're getting a 59%. So when I go back to the spreadsheet for ELA, I'm going to bring up my grades, and for ELA for this week, I would pop in 59. And notice I'm not using percentages. We just want to put the number in there and go from there. So we have ELA in as a 59%, and we go back and hit back to grade summary and pursue what's going on in math. And the student's getting a 69.88 in math, so we can round that up to 70. So let's say math has a 70% this week, so put a 70 in. And then we go back to Infinite Campus once again, back to grades, and we click physical education. And oops, the student's getting a 33% in physical education. So PE grade could be a little bit better, so let's put a 33 in there. And let's go back to campus, and we're going to do the same thing for science. 91% in science. And so we'll put a 91 in for science. And go back to Infinite Campus, back to grade summary, and we'll pick up world studies, and that student's getting a 48%, rounding up again, in social studies, so 48%. All right, and you'll notice that no percentage signs were used. Lesson learned from before, don't put percentage signs in, and you'll notice that the chart populates that data point that we just put in. So the more data points you put in, you're going to come off and look at the chart on the right, and it's going to graph how you're doing in ELA, math, science, and PE. Remember, the whole idea is that we want to see an upward trend working from the lower left to the upper right, or if you're somebody that does exceptionally well in your classes, it's going to be a flat line around 100%, which is great. Those are the numbers we want to be looking for. We want to look for increases, or we want to look for flat lines when you're a high achiever at or around 100%. So that takes care of the grade aspect. And now we're going to look at missing assignments. All right, so this is the second part of the grades tab as far as your progress monitoring is concerned. It has to do with missing assignments. Ideally, we want students to have 0 missing assignments for all of their content areas, but we know sometimes you guys get busy and sometimes you'll miss assignments, and we do like to hold you accountable for those assignments, and we do expect that you're going to get those done, whether it be in SLC or at home. We do expect and hold you accountable for that work. So we're looking at missing assignments, and once again, we're going to go into campus. And let's start for this particular student again. Are they missing any assignments in their World Studies class? And well, missing one, missing two, missing three assignments. So when I bring up my progress monitoring under missing assignments for social studies, I'm going to put in a 3 for this student. There's the 3. Notice no percentages, it's just a number. So I'm going to do the same thing with all the other areas. Let's do science. Well, look at that. No missing assignments in science. So nice job to this student. Might explain why she has a 91% going, because she has all of the work turned in for her science teacher. Good. So 0 there. So nice job. And this student in physical education doesn't have any missing assignments. So we're going to put 0 in for PE. And once again, going back, let's look at math. No missing assignments in, oh, it looks like there are 2 missing assignments in math. All right, so we got to put a 2 in for math. And we have ELA last, so let's look at ELA for this student. And missing 1, missing two assignments for ELA. So we put a 2 in there. You know, ideally, when we have all these data points in here and we graph that, we want to see that these are going to go to 0 eventually. So students that have lots of numbers in these areas, that's just saying that you're not doing what you should be doing here as far as getting work done in your classes, or you're not doing your homework, you're not getting work turned in. So you may expect that you're going to have additional time assigned in SLCs, or it makes for good conference discussions with parents about why you have the grade that you have. So please be sure that you're getting work turned in and you're doing your absolute best on your work, so that there are 0s in for missing assignments. And you'll notice that correlates well to grades. Like we mentioned with the science, that student had 0 missing assignments and had a 91% going in that science class. So that really speaks to the fact that they have all the assignments turned in and obviously are doing very well. So we also want to take a look at the total topics learned for ALEKS. And when you bring up your PI report for individual students, you will see under all topics, it'll look like what's on your screen now. You'll see this number 151. We don't want to use the 151 because that's just saying that those are the topics that we've mastered plus 2 that we've been introduced to, but we haven't mastered yet. So the ones that we want to focus on are the ones that are mastered. And this particular student has mastered 149 of the topics so far, has 365 left to go. So he has a little bit of work to do, obviously, yet, but is definitely progressing satisfactorily at this point. So we want to take the 149 and we're going to put it in our spreadsheet under topics mastered. And for this week, let's say we put 149. Now we should definitely see next week when we go in there, we should see something greater than what number? Yes, 149. We should have a number greater than 149 if we've been working on ALEKS during the course of the week. So let's say this student masters another 50 topics, and next week they have 199 that they've mastered. So again, they're showing positive growth, and that's what we want to see. All right, so when we look at the final tab that we want to look at here in the progress monitoring, it's your Achieve Lexile Growth tab, and we bring that tab up. We're monitoring September through May how your Lexile has grown through the course of the school year. And what ideally, again, we want to see is that chart and that line is moving from the lower left to the upper right. Or again, if you're somebody that performs at a high level, it'll be up here at the top and kind of maybe a little flatter as far as the growth is concerned. But we want to see growth in increased numbers as you work through the Achieve 3000 program each of the 4 quarters of the grading periods. So we're going to look in Achieve 3000, and we want Advisory teachers, just to check those Lexile levels. Reminder that the Lexile levels do change after the month has ended. And at the beginning of the month, we should see adjusted Lexile scores for each of our students. So let's say the first Lexile that we had for this student was a 900. The next month of October, let's say that student went up to 930. Third month in November, they're at 970. And December, let's say they hit 1,000. Making a lot of progress, and 1,030 for January, and so on. So you can see the upward trend for this student as the year is progressing. Their Lexile level is growing, and they're showing a lot of growth in their reading level. And ideally, that's what we want to see. So that's a good thing. So let's review real quickly. We have the different tabs at the bottom that we need to be filling out. The Achieve 3000, be sure again that we're not putting percentages in there, just put the numbers in for each week. And Achieve 3000, that's for the articles that you're doing advisory on Wednesdays. The Achieve Lexile Growth, you're putting in that monthly Lexile score that will change, hopefully for the positive, at the beginning of each month. The ALEKS Time and Topic, which is the work you're doing each week, the time in minutes. Please don't put hours in there, so if it's 2 hours, 120 minutes, put 120 in. If it's an hour and 13 minutes, put 73 minutes in. And then the topics completed, put that number in there as well. ALEKS Topics Mastered, be sure you're logging in to your ALEKS and you're looking for how many of the total number of topics that you've mastered. And we want to see that number growing each week. And if you finish a course, which is very possible, we'll start you over in a new course to stretch you a little bit further. And we'll look at grades. Again, don't put percentages in, put just the whole numbers that you get out of your Infinite Campus. And also, while you're doing that, you might as well put the missing assignments and toggle back and forth between these two and put the numbers in. Remember, with missing assignments, ideally we want to see zeros in for missing assignments. We don't like you spending time in SLC every day, and we don't like to assign you extra time after school to work on things. Take the time and do the work, and do it right, and do it well the first time. And then hopefully these zeros will lead to positive results like we talked about with that student earlier. And that's it as far as the progress monitoring is concerned. Finally, we would ask that when you're through with this, that you're going to show your advisory teacher how you're doing on each of these facets in your progress monitoring. The advisory teacher will provide some ideas of how you might consider making improvements so your work is reflecting positive changes. If needed, the advisory teacher may seek additional intervention with the school counselor, with parents, and with building administration. In fact, I've been checking progress monitoring for several of you and leaving notes for you, and I will continue to do so, and I'm sure Ms. Ingram will do the same thing. But we want to continue to make sure that you're showing progress in all of your classes. Finally, please do not click Submit when you are done each week. Once again, do not click Submit. We want to make sure that this tool is up and available to you throughout the school year.